There are moments when a person feels as if their mind is covered by a quiet fog. Thoughts move slowly. Focus slips away. The present moment feels distant, almost unreachable. From the outside, everything appears normal. You speak, you walk, you complete your daily tasks. Yet somewhere inside, a subtle disconnection grows. It is as if life is happening, but not fully to you. Many people call this exhaustion. Others blame a lack of motivation. But the truth runs deeper than simple tiredness. What you may actually be experiencing is a separation from the present moment. The human body always lives in time, but the human mind rarely does. It drifts backward into regret or rushes forward into anxiety, spending very little time in the only place where life is real, now. Because of this, opportunities pass unnoticed. Important words remain unspoken. Decisions are made too quickly, guided more by fear or habit than by clarity. Yet throughout history, certain individuals lived differently. In the middle of chaos, they remained calm. When others panicked, their vision stayed clear. Their choices were precise. Their actions carried quiet confidence. What separated them from everyone else was not strength, not luck, not even natural talent. It was a single inner ability, the capacity to be completely present. This ability has never been a secret. Across thousands of years, different cultures discovered it in their own way. Some monks cultivated it through silence and stillness. Some warriors tested it in moments of real danger. Some philosophers uncovered it simply by observing nature. Despite their different paths, they arrived at the same realization. When a person learns to guide their own mind, they begin to guide the direction of their entire life. What is most fascinating is that modern science is slowly confirming this ancient insight. The brain is not fixed. It changes. It adapts. New experiences create new connections, and focused attention is one of the most powerful forces shaping those changes. Calmness, then, is not an accident. Clarity is not a gift reserved for a fortunate few. These are trainable human skills. So an important question emerges. If this ability is real, and if it can be developed, why do so few people ever discover it? The answer is surprisingly simple. Most people search for transformation in dramatic places. Major life events, sudden inspiration, or perfect conditions that never truly arrive. But real change rarely begins with something large. It usually hides inside moments so small they are almost invisible. A single breath taken with awareness. A pause before reaching for a phone. The quiet decision to truly listen when someone speaks. These tiny moments may seem meaningless, yet they can become doorways, openings through which consciousness slowly awakens. Imagine if, for just a few minutes each day, a person lived with complete awareness, not distracted, not rushing, simply present. Over time, minutes could become hours. Hours could become a new way of living. And a new way of living could reshape an entire future. Transformation does not always begin with a dramatic step. Often, it begins with a nearly silent decision, the decision to notice. Because wherever attention goes, life quietly follows. If attention rests on fear, life begins to feel smaller. If attention returns to the present, life begins to open. Here, one of the deepest truths reveals itself. Calmness does not depend on perfect circumstances. It is the result of inner order. Even during a storm, the deepest part of the ocean remains still. In the same way, beneath the surface of every human mind exists a place untouched by urgency or panic. a space of simple awareness. Reaching this space does not require years of isolation. Sometimes only a few days of sincere, conscious practice can begin the shift. The hardest part is not the method. The hardest part is the beginning. Because to begin means to step away from the automatic patterns that have quietly controlled everyday life. Yet every meaningful path starts the same way, with one calm moment of awareness. And within that single moment lies the possibility of an entirely different future. A future where your mind is not scattered, but clear, not reactive, but steady, not distant from life, but fully inside it. The change does not arrive all at once. It unfolds gently, the way dawn replaces darkness, slowly, quietly, but unmistakably. And once the first light appears, it becomes impossible to forget that clarity was always there, waiting patiently for you to return to the present moment. Something subtle begins to change the moment awareness returns. At first, the shift is almost impossible to notice. Nothing dramatic happens. The world outside remains the same responsibilities, the same conversations, the same pressures waiting in familiar places. Yet inside, a quiet space starts to form. It appears in the pause before a reaction, in the breath that arrives before a decision, in the small distance between what is felt and what is done. Most people never discover this distance. Their lives move in a continuous chain of impulse and response. Emotion leading instantly to action, habit guiding choice without permission, days passing without ever being fully experienced. But once awareness enters the pattern, the chain weakens. And in that weakening, freedom quietly begins. For thousands of years, different traditions tried to describe this moment. Some called it stillness, some called it mindfulness. Others described it as waking up while the body is still moving through ordinary life. Regardless of the name, the experience is always similar. A clear sense that you are no longer completely controlled by the noise inside your own mind. This realization can feel both peaceful and unsettling. Peaceful because clarity is returning. Unsettling because you begin to see how much of life was previously lived on autopilot. You notice how quickly irritation appears, how easily attention is stolen, how often the present moment is exchanged for worries about things that have not happened and memories that can no longer be changed. Seeing this clearly is not a failure. It is the beginning of intelligence. Because what can be seen can also be transformed. And this is where true training begins, not in isolation from life, but in the middle of it. Awareness deepens through ordinary moments, while standing in a line that moves too slowly, while listening to someone you disagree with, while facing a task you would rather avoid. These situations once felt meaningless or frustrating. Now they become something entirely different, opportunities to remain present when presence is difficult. This is the turning point. Anyone can feel calm in silence. Anyone can focus when nothing is demanding attention. But clarity that survives pressure is what separates temporary peace from lasting inner stability. As days pass, another discovery emerges. Presence is not only about calmness, it also sharpens perception. Colors seem slightly brighter, sounds feel more distinct. Conversations reveal emotions that were previously invisible. You begin to sense what people mean, even when they do not say it directly. You recognize tension before conflict appears. You feel intuition guiding small decisions that logic alone could never solve. This is not mystical. It is the natural result of attention no longer being scattered in every direction. Energy that was once lost in distraction returns to awareness. And awareness, when concentrated, becomes insight. With insight comes another change, a different relationship with emotion. Before, emotions arrived like storms, sudden, overwhelming, difficult to control. Now they are still powerful, but no longer absolute. Anger can be felt without becoming anger. Fear can be noticed without obeying fear. Sadness can move through without defining identity. This does not make a person cold or distant. In fact, the opposite happens. Because reactions soften, understanding grows. You listen more carefully, speak more thoughtfully, choose words that heal instead of harm. Relationships begin to shift in subtle ways. Conflicts that once escalated lose their intensity. Silences become comfortable instead of heavy. Respect appears naturally without being demanded. People may not know what changed in you, but they feel it. They sense steadiness. They sense patience. They sense a presence that does not rush to judge or defend. And in a world filled with noise and urgency, that kind of presence is rare enough to feel powerful. Yet the most important transformation is still unfolding beneath the surface, because continued awareness reveals something deeper. Many of the limits you believed were permanent were never truly real. They were patterns, learned responses, stories repeated so often they felt like truth. I always react this way. I can't stay calm under pressure. That's just who I am. But as presence grows, these sentences begin to lose strength. You witness yourself choosing differently, responding differently, remaining steady in moments that once caused collapse. And each new response sends a quiet message to the mind. Change is possible. Not someday, not after perfect conditions appear, but here, inside ordinary life. This realization carries enormous power, because the moment a person truly believes change is possible, attention shifts from limitation to creation. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" a new question appears. Who am I becoming? That question opens a door the past could never unlock. Through it, discipline no longer feels like punishment. Patience no longer feels like waiting. Silence no longer feels empty. Everything becomes part of a single movement. The gradual alignment between awareness, choice, and action. And when alignment deepens, confidence appears in a new form. Not loud confidence that demands recognition. Not fragile confidence that disappears with criticism. But quiet confidence. The kind built from direct experience of meeting life consciously. This confidence does not need to prove anything, because it is rooted in something stable. The knowledge that no matter what situation arises, you can return to presence. Again and again, breath by breath, moment by moment. By now, the change is no longer theoretical, it is lived. You feel the difference between reacting and responding, between drifting and choosing, between existing and being fully alive inside experience. And yet one final threshold remains, because presence in calm situations is only the beginning. The real test arrives when pressure becomes unavoidable, when uncertainty grows, stakes rise, and emotions intensify all at once. It is there, in the heat of real challenge, that awareness must either disappear or transform into something even stronger. What happens next determines whether presence remains a temporary practice or becomes a permanent way of being. There comes a moment in every true inner journey when calm awareness is no longer tested by silence, but by pressure. Not the imagined pressure of small worries, but the real weight of uncertainty. Decisions that cannot be delayed. Situations that do not wait for perfect clarity. Moments when emotion rises faster than thought. This is where presence either disappears or becomes something unbreakable. For most people, intense pressure awakens the oldest patterns of the mind. The body tightens, breathing becomes shallow. Thought narrows into survival. Reaction replaces wisdom. It feels automatic, almost unavoidable, as if some ancient mechanism takes control. And in many ways, it does. Deep inside the human brain lives a system designed not for peace, not for happiness, but for survival. When danger is sensed, this system moves faster than logic, faster than reason, faster than conscious choice. That is why words are spoken in anger that are later regretted. Why fear creates decisions that close doors instead of opening them. Why intelligence seems to vanish exactly when it is needed most. But something extraordinary happens when awareness has been trained patiently over time. The same pressure that once caused collapse begins to reveal strength. Not because the situation is easier, not because emotion disappears, but because space now exists between feeling and action. Inside that space lives freedom, a single steady breath in the middle of chaos, a brief moment of observation before response, a quiet return to the present instant instead of the imagined future. These changes appear small from the outside. No one sees the silent decision not to react. No one hears the inner shift from panic to clarity. Yet internally, everything is different. Because for the first time, the mind is no longer being carried by the storm. It is standing within it. This is the true turning point of transformation. Not when life becomes peaceful, but when you remain present even when it is not. From here, awareness deepens into something more stable, something that does not depend on mood or environment or external control. It becomes a way of being. Challenges still arrive. Loss still exists. Uncertainty does not disappear from the world, but suffering caused by unconscious reaction begins to fade. You start to notice a quiet resilience forming, a strength that is calm instead of hard, flexible instead of rigid, clear instead of forceful. Like water that cannot be broken because it does not resist. With this resilience comes a profound realization. You cannot control every event in life, but you can learn to meet every event with awareness, and that changes everything. Because the quality of a life is shaped less by what happens, and more by how it is experienced. Two people can walk through the same storm. One feels only chaos, the other discovers clarity. The difference is not circumstance, it is consciousness. As this understanding matures, fear begins to lose its authority. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually, like darkness fading when morning light enters a room. You still feel uncertainty, you still feel risk, but they no longer define your limits. Instead, they become invitations, calls to remain awake when sleep would be easier, calls to stay open when closing would feel safer, calls to act with wisdom instead of habit. And each time you answer that call, confidence grows deeper. Not surface confidence based on success or approval, but grounded confidence built from direct evidence. You can face life consciously. This is the confidence no failure can destroy, because it does not depend on winning or losing. It depends only on presence. by now, something subtle but undeniable has changed in the way you exist. Time feels different. Moments feel fuller. Even ordinary experiences carry a quiet sense of meaning. Walking becomes more than movement. Listening becomes more than waiting to speak. Breathing becomes more than survival. Life, which once felt distant, is now immediate. And in this immediacy, gratitude appears naturally, not forced, not imagined, but discovered. Gratitude for simple awareness, for the ability to feel, for the chance to be alive inside a single, unrepeatable moment. This is not the dramatic transformation stories often promise. It is quieter than that, simpler, more real. Yet its impact is far greater, because instead of escaping life, you have finally entered it, fully, consciously, without needing it to be perfect. And from this place, a final truth becomes clear. The journey was never about becoming someone new. It was about removing everything that prevented you from being fully alive as you already are. Nothing essential was missing, only awareness was hidden. Now it is visible again, and once seen, it cannot truly be forgotten. There will still be difficult days, moments of distraction, times when old habits briefly return. But something fundamental has shifted forever. You know the way back to the breath, back to the present, back to the quiet center that exists beneath every thought. This knowledge is simple, yet powerful enough to reshape an entire lifetime. Because every future moment will offer the same silent question. Will you live unconsciously, or will you return to presence? The answer will never be forced. It will always remain a choice. A small, quiet choice repeated again and again until it becomes the natural rhythm of your life. And in that rhythm, clarity replaces confusion, calm replaces urgency, meaning replaces emptiness. Not someday, not in another life, but here, in this breath, in this moment, in the awareness reading these words. The door has always been open. You only needed to notice it and walk through.